You know that feeling? That hope for things to be a bit smoother with family, maybe with your parents, maybe finding, I don't know, less friction with the kids.
Yeah, absolutely. It's something pretty much everyone wants.
Well, in this deep dive, we're not promising magic wands, but we are going to unpack some really powerful ideas. Stuff from the world of human relationships, with aimed right at those crucial family ties.
Exactly. We've looked at a bunch of sources from sort of the classic wisdom on getting along with people to really practical, concrete examples of how this stuff actually works at home.
Hmm.
Think of it as digging into how we can build stronger bonds, you know,
Yeah.
and maybe ease up on some of those typical family arguments.
Yeah, our mission today is pretty straightforward. Pull out the most useful, actionable strategies you can actually use, like right now, to get a better understanding, better connection with both your parents and your kids.
Right. We're looking at what works, but also why it works, why these things hit home in our closest relationships.
Okay, so where should we start? Parents first.
Let's do it. Connecting with parents. Often the goal here is, getting past old habits, maybe building more mutual respect, and just genuinely understanding where they're coming from.
Makes sense. So what's our first strategy here?
Okay, first up, reflective listening. And we're pairing that with emotional intelligence.
Reflective listening. EQ sounds a bit textbooky.
Maybe a little, but it's actually super practical. Reflective listening is basically focusing really hard on understanding the feeling behind what your parent is saying, not just the words.
Okay,
And then you reflect that feeling back to them. Just show them, hey, I heard the emotion there.
gotcha. So give me an example, maybe that classic line, you never call unless you need something. How do you handle that reflectively?
Right. So instead of immediately getting defensive, like, that's not true, you pause and you try something like, okay, so it sounds like maybe you feel a bit unappreciated. When I don't reach out more often, I can see how that would hurt.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that lands differently.
Totally. It's about validating their feeling first.
Right. Key insight. That validation thing, it really lowers the defenses, doesn't it? Kind of opens the door for a real talk instead of just a fight.
Exactly. You're showing empathy up front. You're acknowledging their experience, which takes the sting out of the accusation. Then you can talk about the real issue, which is probably about connection, not just call frequency.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
Okay, so that connects to the emotional intelligence piece you mentioned, like Goleman's stuff. Self-awareness, self-regulation.
Absolutely vital,
Yeah.
especially in families, right, where there's so much history. Those emotional triggers are pretty well established.
Tell me about it.
So self-awareness is knowing your buttons, what sets you off. And self-regulation is managing your reaction when those buttons get pushed, not just flying off the handle.
Okay, so let's say a parent brings up some old mistake.
Yeah.
Again, and you feel that annoyance rising. What do you do?
You got to hit pause internally. Recognize, okay, I'm getting annoyed right now. But then you choose a different response. You could say something like, I notice I'm starting to feel a bit frustrated, but I really do want us to talk this through without arguing. Can we maybe just take a breath and try that bit again?
So you're naming your feeling, but also stating your intention for a better conversation, kind of leading by example.
Precisely. Key insight. You're modeling emotional control. You manage your own reaction, and that sets a calmer tone, making a constructive conversation way more likely.
I like that. It shows you're committed to making it work.
Uh,
Okay, what's the third technique for parents?
this one shifts gears a bit. It's about reciprocity and unity, focusing on giving back and highlighting what you share.
Okay, moving from potential conflict to mutual support.
Exactly. Think about consciously saying thanks for their support over the years, even if you didn't always show it back then, and then offer to be there for them.
How would that sound?
Maybe something like, Mom, Dad, you've always been there for me even when I was difficult. I really appreciate that. And I want to return that support. Is there anything I can help you with this week?
That feels really positive. It acknowledges the history, but focuses on the present support.
Right. Key insight. Offering help and expressing that genuine gratitude taps into that basic human need we all have to feel valued, to feel supported. It reinforces the bond through giving, not just taking or arguing.
Yeah, it shifts the whole energy from potential tension to, like you said, shared care, being on the same team. Okay, solid strategies for parents. Now let's flip it. Let's talk about connecting with kids, young ones, teenagers. The goals shift a bit here, right?
Definitely. Now we're often thinking about building trust, influencing their behavior in a positive way, and maybe sidestepping some of those power struggles.
Yeah, avoiding the constant battle.
Yeah.
So what's a good starting point?
Well, understanding their world becomes key. And fostering collaboration. A really powerful tool for this is nonviolent communication, or NVC.
NVC. Okay, what's the main idea behind that?
In a nutshell, NVC is about expressing yourself, your observations, feelings, needs, and requests, but doing it clearly and crucially without any blame or judgment.
Okay, no finger pointing.
Right. The aim is to connect with empathy and find solutions that actually work for everyone involved.
Can you give us a kid example? Let's say your kid just ignores you when you call them.
Okay. So the blaming way might be, why are you so rude? You never listen.
Yeah, familiar.
The NVC way might sound more like this. Hey, when I call your name and there's no answer, that's the observation, I start to feel worried that's the feeling, because I need to know you're okay, that's the need. Would you be willing to just give a quick shout back next time so I know you heard me? That's the request.
Big difference. It's all I feel and I need and a specific thing they can do.
Exactly. Key insight. NVC keeps it respectful. You're focusing on your experience, your need for safety, without attacking them. That makes them way less likely to get defensive and more likely to actually hear you.
Makes sense. Keeps the focus on the problem, not the person.
Yeah.
Okay, what else works with kids?
Something surprisingly simple. Mirroring.
Mirroring, like copying them.
Sort of, but more specific. It's when your child says something, especially if it's like emotionally charged, you gently repeat a key phrase back as a question with a genuinely curious, neutral tone.
Okay, walk me through it. Teenager says, eye roll. You just don't get it. You
Yeah.
never understand me. What's the mirror?
You just calmly, gently say, I never understand you.
That's it.
That's often it to start. What usually happens is they elaborate. They start explaining why they feel you don't understand. It kind of prompts them to unpack it a bit more.
Huh. And it probably makes them feel heard too, right? Because you're literally using their words.
Exactly. Key insight. Mirroring gets them to clarify, makes them feel like you're actually listening, and it can really dial down the emotional heat just by inviting them to say more.
Clever. Okay, so that helps with understanding. What about actually, getting them to do stuff?
Yeah.
Influencing behavior.
Okay. For that, let's look at one of Cialdini's principles. Commitment and consistency.
Commitment and consistency. How does that apply to getting your kid to clean their room?
Well, the core idea is that people like to be consistent with things they've already said or agreed to. So if you can get them to state a commitment, especially one linked to something they want, they're more likely to follow through.
Okay, give me an example. Maybe they want more freedom.
Perfect. So you might say, look, you've been saying you want more independence, right? More privileges.
Yeah.
Well, part of showing you're ready for that is being responsible. How about we agree that taking care of your room without me nagging is part of showing that responsibility? Can you commit to that?
Ah, I see. You're connecting their goal, independence, to the action you want, cleaning the room. It's not just an order.
Exactly. Key insight. You're framing it around their values and desires. It becomes about them proving they're ready for what they want, not just about obeying you. That internal motivation is way stronger.
Very smart. Okay, one more for the kids.
Yeah, let's touch on the SCAR-FF model, specifically autonomy and relatedness.
SCAR-F. Remind me quickly.
It's a model about social triggers. Status, certainty, autonomy, relatedness, fairness. With kids, giving them choices feeds their need for autonomy, feeling like they have some control.
Great.
And it boosts relatedness, that feeling of connection, because you're showing you respect their preferences.
So instead of do your homework now,
It's offering options like, hey, would you rather do homework before dinner or after dinner? Or we need to talk about this chore thing. Want to do it now or maybe after your show ends?
simple choices, but they make a difference.
Huge difference sometimes. Key insight.
Yeah.
Even small choices honor their need for control. It makes them feel less like they're being dictated to and more like a collaborator, which usually means way less resistance.
Yeah. Fosters cooperation instead of just compliance. Okay, so as we're talking through all these specific techniques for parents, for kids I keep noticing echoes of, like the real foundational stuff, like Carnegie's principles from How to Win Friends.
Oh, absolutely. You're spot on. A lot of these practical tactics are really just specific applications of those timeless human relations ideas.
Like the reflective listening we started with. That's pure Carnegie, right? Be a good listener, be genuinely interested in the other person.
Exactly. And his huge point about avoiding criticism, that's the whole basis of NVC, expressing needs without blame.
Right. and showing sincere appreciation.
Yeah.
That links back to the reciprocity thing with parents, doesn't it? Making them feel valued.
Totally. And even something as simple as Carnegie emphasizing using someone's name, it speaks to that fundamental respect, making people feel seen and important, which underlies so many of these techniques for building better connections within the family.
Yeah.
Using you directly, like we're trying to do here for the listener, is part of that.
It really is amazing how powerful those simple things can be. And talking in terms of the other person's interests, that's exactly what we discussed with the commitment and consistency principle for kids linking chores to their desire for independence.
hmm And think about avoiding arguments. Seeking common ground, another Carnegie classic. That's what pausing and resetting with parents is about. Or using mirroring with kids, their de-escalation tactics.
Yeah, ways to find a path forward instead of just digging in.
Yeah.
Even admitting when you're wrong, which we didn't give a specific example for, but it came up in the sources it fits too, right? Preventing fights, building trust, prioritizing the relationship.
Couldn't agree more. And his advice to use indirect approaches rather than just bluntly saying, you're wrong, we saw that in the phrasing of the reflective listening example. It's gentler, more about understanding.
So it all kind of circles back.
It really does. So many of these specific methods boil down to making the other person feel heard, understood, and important. That seems to be the bedrock of strong relationships.
Okay, so wrapping this up, if we had to pull out the main takeaway from this deep dive.
I'd say it's this. Applying these ideas, listening, validating, giving choices, focusing on needs, not blame thoughtfully and genuinely, can really shift the dynamics in your family.
It's not about tricks or manipulation, is it?
Not at all. It's about understanding perspectives better. It's about choosing connection over conflict, consciously.
Yeah, building those stronger relationships isn't usually a quick fix. It takes consistent, mindful effort, like actually using these strategies.
Exactly.
So maybe a final thought for everyone listening, just pick one technique we talked about today. Maybe it's trying that reflective listening phrase with a parent next time things get tense. Or offering your kid a simple choice instead of a command.
Just one thing.
Try it this week, see what happens. Even a small shift can make a difference. And, think about it, these aren't just family strategies, are they?
Nope. These principles about understanding people, influencing positively, building connection, they work pretty much everywhere in all kinds of relationships. It's all about human interaction, really.